definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
It has been a super busy day for breaking news and a busy and I would say successful day for women survivors. A unanimous jury finds Donald Trump liable for sexually assaulting and defaming journalist E. Jean Carroll, and they awarded E. Jean Carroll $5 million in damages, including punitive damages. And a superior court in Los Angeles has denied Tony Lance a new trial after his conviction for shooting Megan Thee Stallion. In the Eastern District of New York, the Department of Justice has charged Congressman George Santos. He is expected to surrender to law enforcement tomorrow morning. We don't know the exact charges, but we know that Santos has been caught lying on his resume and has made false statements regarding his campaign finances. We will continue to track this story to see exactly what the charges are brought by the Department of Justice against New York Congressmember George Santos. Most U.S. adults say the abortion pill, mifepristone, should stay on the market. A survey by ABC finds that 66% of U.S. adults say the drug should remain on the market, while only 24% say that it should be taken off the market. We know this month the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit will consider the case brought by anti-abortion groups against the FDA's regulation of mifepristone. The gunman who killed 8 people at an outlet mall in suburban Dallas posted photographs of the shopping center 3 weeks before the attack on a social media account where he fantasized about race wars and the collapse of society. Former Congresswoman Liz Cheney has vowed to do everything she can to keep Donald Trump from returning to the White House. She has launched a television ad warning viewers that the former president is a risk America cannot take again. The ad is running on CNN before and during a town hall scheduled for tomorrow night. The Senate Judiciary Committee, in a letter, asked billionaire Harlan Crow to provide a full accounting of the free travel and other gifts that he has made to Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas or any other justice, marking an escalation of the powerful committee's effort to convince the Supreme Court to adopt stricter ethical standards for itself. It's unclear what Durbin's next move would be. However, Dianne Feinstein is reportedly returning to the Senate. And with her back in Washington, D.C., the Judiciary Committee will have the votes necessary to subpoena anyone, including Harlan Crow, who, according to his attorney, is not going to answer any of the questions posed in the letter from the Senate Judiciary Committee. A House committee in Texas advanced a measure yesterday that would raise the minimum age to buy semi-automatic rifles in an unexpected shift after 9 people died in that shooting at a Dallas area outlet mall over the weekend. The Select Committee on Community Safety approved the measure on an 8-5 vote, with 2 Republicans backing the Democratic bill. This is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. In this hour, I'm joined by 2 of my favorite contributors, Dr. Karlos Hill. He's an author and professor at the University of Oklahoma, and Dr. Niambi Carter. She's also an author and professor at the University of Maryland. In my second hour today, I'm going to be talking about the Sudan civil unrest, or I guess the all-out fight that's happening in Sudan. We're going to talk about what is behind the war and where is the U.S.? What role is it playing in this civil war, and what is at stake not only for the U.S., but its allies around the globe? I have 2 experts on Sudan who are going to join me in hour 2. But before I bring my guest on, here's what I'm thinking about in real time. I don't know if you saw this, but Oscar-winning actor Richard Dreyfuss, you've seen him in lots of very, very successful movies. He is critical of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science and their new diversity and inclusion standards. Now, those standards are supposed to go into effect in 2024. And Dreyfuss says that the updated requirements for Oscar contention, quote, make me vomit, end quote. He continued with his defense of Laurence Olivier's performance in the 1965 feature Othello, in which the English actor played the Shakespeare lead in blackface. Dreyfus said, look, Olivier played a black man brilliantly, and I'm being told that I will never have a chance to play a black man? Is someone else being told that if they're not Jewish, they shouldn't play in The Merchant of Venice? Are we crazy? This is what Dreyfus is saying. He said, this is so patronizing, it's so thoughtless, and it's treating people like children. Okay, there is a whole lot to unpack, Richard Dreyfus. So let me tell you where I agree with you. Yes, it shouldn't matter if you are black or white. If you're an actor, you should be able to play all kinds of roles, right? That's why we don't understand Egypt and the attack that it has made against an African-American actress who is playing Cleopatra. The entire country, the entire nation is demanding that Netflix cancel that docudrama. So yes, people of different races and ethnicity and color can play all kinds of roles. It's acting, it's drama. But the place and the thing that Richard Dreyfus gets wrong in his rant, first of all, I don't know why any kind of diversity and inclusion standard would make him want to vomit. That's just blows my mind. But beyond that, let's talk about blackface. Playing a black man and playing a role in blackface are totally different things. And see, this is why we need Black history to be taught in schools, elementary schools, high school, colleges, because people seem to lose their minds or lose whatever they've been taught about the history of African Americans in this country, and particularly the history of blackface. Richard Dreyfus is a very accomplished actor, and I'm imagining that he knows the history of blackface. He knows the pain. He knows, the experiences of African American actors and entertainers and performers during the period that blackface became popular in this country. He knows what it means for a white person to put charcoal or some kind of black paint or makeup on their faces to perform, in whether it's a drama or a Broadway play or whatever. He knows that is such a sordid and racist and discriminatory part of our past in this country. And he knows it's not the same as someone playing the role of someone who happens to be African American or Jewish. So I don't know why Richard Dreyfus is on this rant. Obviously, there are people who don't want to see progress in this country. They don't want to see inclusion. They don't want to see actors of different colors and different ethnicities have an opportunity to win awards at award shows. They don't want to see parity. They don't want to see equity. They don't want to level the playing field. So they make these false equivalencies. They make these ridiculous arguments, and they engage in this kind of outrage culture. This make me vomit. You're so outraged about this. I hope to see Dreyfus on the side of Adele James, the Black female who has been cast in Cleopatra. I hope he has the same amount of passion about her playing Cleopatra and how wrong it is for Egypt and those who are attacking her online. Because if he truly believes anybody should be able to play any part, then he should stand solidly with Adele James and those who have cast her in this docudrama. Richard, if you don't know your history, please pick up a book and learn it, and learn about blackface, and learn why you, as an accomplished actor, should never equate blackface with an actor playing the part of an African-American person. When we come forward, more of today's trending news with my brilliant contributors right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580. You're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black. KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
All right, I am back, and joining me in the first hour is Dr. Karlos Hill. He's an author and professor at the University of Oklahoma, and Dr. Niambi Carter. She's also an author and professor at University of Maryland. Thanks to both of you for joining me on this very, very busy news day, breaking news day. To start with you, Dr. Hill, we had some doubts. We did a whole show on this E. Jean Carroll, her sexual assault, her defamation case against Donald Trump in that Manhattan federal court. And just so everyone's clear, this was a civil trial, was never, it was not about criminality. Donald Trump was never going to jail. There was never going to be a determination of guilt in a civil trial. The determination is if someone is liable or not liable. And in this case, today, a unanimous jury of 9 folks determined that Donald Trump was liable for sexual assault and defamation. 6 men on that juror sat on that jury. And when I had an expert, Nancy Erica Smith, who has represented Gretchen Carlson and lots of other women in similar cases, she and I had a little, had some reservations about whether 6 men would be able to find Donald Trump liable. But it took 2.5 hours for them to come back, Dr. Hill, and say, Donald Trump, dude, pay up. You are, basically, you're a sexual assaulter. Are you surprised by this jury verdict?
Areva, how are you today?
I'm well, my friend.
It's good.
Well, I'm very well.
Well, it's good to see you on a busy day. before I say anything, I just think that, we have talked so much about Donald Trump saying and doing so many things. And when we talk about Donald Trump, it's always a question of accountability. Will he be held accountable for what he said and what he's done? And if we really take that seriously, he's not being held accountable, even with a verdict that doesn't go in his favor. I mean, the accuser makes it clear that he not only harassed her, assaulted her, but it was rape, right? And if that is the contention and the verdict is $5 million settlement, that's not justice, right? That's a settlement. And that's what's become a substitute for justice in America, getting a positive settlement in your favor. But when we look at the charge, what he's actually charged with, I don't know how we could say he's in any way being held accountable when he himself says that he's a billionaire and $5 million to him, when you're a billionaire, right, is a write-off. And so this is a good story, but I just don't feel good about him being held accountable.
Well, let me push back a little, Dr. Hill. First of all, let's be clear about the language we use, because settlement in the context of a civil lawsuit means the parties have gotten together and agreed upon an amount, and there hasn't been a full adjudication. There hasn't been a trial. There hasn't been a jury verdict. And in this case, this went full-blown trial, witnesses presented, evidence presented, jury deliberated, and jury came back with a verdict. So we want to be clear, this is a jury verdict. It is not an out-of-court settlement. And you're right, these jurors did not find him liable for rape. They found him liable for sexual assault. And there's a difference under New York law. The New York rape statute requires there to be a finding of penal penetration, whereas sexual assault under the New York statute is the touching, the unwanted touching of someone in a sexual way. So you don't have to have a determination of penetration. Now, if you listen to the testimony, E. Jean Carroll wasn't asked a lot of questions about penetration or things that I think could have led the jury to answer the jury questionnaire that Donald Trump raped her. And she wasn't cross-examined extensively on the elements of the rape statute. And the reason I think her lawyers didn't do that is because, again, this is a 79-year-old woman, and she grew up in an era, and she testified to this, where she didn't talk about these things. And it was, polite women, cultured women, good girls, so to speak, didn't talk about, these kinds of encounters with men. They were just raised in a different era. So I think E. Jean Carroll's, even though she did claim rape, her lawyers made a tactical decision not to pursue the rape claim in terms of the presentation of evidence in a way that perhaps could have led the jury to find on the rape charges. So I think this is monumental. I think this is huge. This is the first woman who has accused Donald Trump, and we know there have been dozens that have accused him of sexually touching, assaulting, molesting, harassing them. This is the first one that has gone to a jury, and there's been a verdict in favor of that woman. Now, does it satisfy every inkling that we have about Donald Trump and the way he has flaunted our judicial system? No, but this woman filed a suit that on a case that happened over 30 years ago. She wasn't even able to remember the day that it happened. She couldn't pinpoint a lot of the details. And even with her understandably fuzzy memory, she was able to convince a jury that Donald Trump sexually assaulted her and defamed her. So I think we got to take this win and celebrate it, because it is, I think, the beginning of something that's quite big and could lead to other determinations by juries, even in those criminal cases, for favorable results for prosecutors. What are you feeling about this, Dr. Carter?
I mean, I think, this is something that I think people should care more about. But for those who are true believers, dyed in the wool, this won't move the needle at all for them, right? I mean, you even have his own opponents like Vivek Ramaswamy, who's trying to use this as a moment to capitalize on the Trump legacy, saying this is all political and the timing, not recognizing that the law had changed in New York for this woman to file this case in the first place. It wasn't that she just wanted to wait 30 years to go after him. The laws had to change. I think the other part of it too is, I think there's some indication that the Republican Party wants to move on from Donald Trump, but to who, right? They're not interested in any of his opponents. And so he is still a front runner, even after the allegation. I mean, and it wasn't just E. Jean Carroll suing him. He even was recorded on tape saying you can just grab women by the genitals, right? And that still wasn't enough to discredit him. His ex-wife wrote in her book about an alleged sexual assault when they were a couple. So there were lots of things about his character that were questionable. I think this is now saying, like, there were 12 people who were impaneled. And, we fetishize justice, we fetishize jury trials for numerous and sundry reasons. But if this is the criteria by which we say that we can hold people accountable, right, in as impartial and imperfect a way. And this man, by all the metrics that we have available, has been found to be liable for this sexual assault and for this defamation of this woman, that still is not going to shake the foundation of this man. He has not had any sort of stoppages in his fundraising, in his endorsements. You did have two prominent Republicans, Mo Brooks and the former governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, say, you know what, this guy is too corrupt, too problem. The party really needs a divorce from this guy. But none of his current opponents, Nikki Haley,
wait,
are saying anything.
I gotta stop y'all. Maybe it's because I'm a civil rights lawyer and I've been doing this for most of my career. This case is big. I don't care how you slice it. Yes, it's not going to stop Donald Trump. Do you all remember back in the day, if you were a woman and you were sexually assaulted by a man, you were afraid to even come forward and talk about it. Your case would have been DOA. You wouldn't have been believed by a jury. You wouldn't have been believed by a judge. You couldn't have even probably gotten past a motion to dismiss on the evidence that E. Jean Carroll had. And let me tell you something else that happened in this trial that was so huge for women. The judge allowed two other fact-based witnesses, fact-based not because they were there and they witnessed it, but because they had similar incidents with Donald Trump where he touched them. One lady on an airplane, he groped another woman. Those witnesses 10 years ago, they wouldn't have been allowed to testify in a trial like this. That's why when we took these cases in the 80s and the 90s, we lost them. We lost these cases. Women were fired from their jobs. They had their reputations maligned. People, we got Harvey Weinstein.
But it still happens. It's
okay, but we gotta stop and appreciate progress when it happens. No, we ain't won the whole war, but this battle was important. Can you imagine what it took for this woman to come forward with these details? And again, it wasn't the best case. This lady, E. Jean Carroll, would have walked into offices of a lot of lawyers. They would have told her, I'm not taking this case. It's too risky. Your facts aren't solid enough. It's too hard to go after a white man. It's too hard to go after a powerful white man. It's too hard to go after a rich, powerful white man. It's too hard to go after a powerful, rich white man that used to be the president. So she probably had to shop this case around 20, 30 different law firms before anybody would say, yes, we'll take it. These cases are hard. They're hard because we have a patriarchal, cisgender male judicial system that devalues women. They don't believe women. So when a woman comes forward and is willing to go through the rigors, Donald Trump's lawyer called this lady a liar. He called her a scammer. He disrespected her. So he didn't even put on a witness. I have never seen a trial like this where the defense attorney wouldn't even put on one witness, one piece of evidence. And Donald Trump was so doggone arrogant. He didn't even show his face in the trial. That's how dismissive they were of E. Jean Carroll. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. But I just had to say that as a civil rights lawyer, this case is huge. Let's talk about something you all, maybe we can get some agreement on. And that's, oh my God, Harlan Crow. his lawyer just told the Senate Judiciary, go pound sand. I'm not answering none of your questions about how many gifts Harlan Crow has given to Clarence Thomas or to any other Supreme Court justice. I don't know why they're writing letters to Harlan Crow. Well, I guess I do know why. They didn't have the votes to issue a subpoena. But what are you thinking now, Dr. Karlos Hill, now that we know that Senator Feinstein is reportedly on her way back to D.C.? Do you think we're going to get a subpoena? Is Harlan Crow going to be made to come into the Senate and testify about what he gave to Clarence Thomas?
I mean, perhaps, but I don't know what that changes about what we do already know that he's done for Clarence Thomas, right? You purchased his mother's house, you paid his nephew's tuition to go to multiple private schools, you've taken him on all of these trips. So I don't know how much more information we actually need about this very extensive, expensive, and incestuous relationship that a Supreme Court justice has with a billionaire. I don't know what more information is going to do if they're not actually going to hold him to any kind of standard of behavior. I think that's the larger issue is, does this move beyond just doing this fact finding? Because ProPublica and these other organizations, journalists have been doing a bang up job of running down this money and this link between Clarence Thomas and Harlan Crow. So Harlan Crow coming and pleading the fifth or saying nothing or delaying his time in front of the Judiciary Committee, I don't know how much more information they need before they do something. I'm more interested in what they're going to do with this extra information than the fact that they collect it and they air it out. And then what? Because he's been doing this stuff for decades with Harlan.
Hold that thought, Professor Carter. When we come forward, I want to continue this conversation about the Judiciary Committee and what they do with Harlan Crow. Also want to talk about Liz Cheney. She has a lot to say about Donald Trump being a risk that America can never take again. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think we can back it up. If you come across a radio frequency anywhere putting more variety and more diversity on the air than KBLA Talk 1580, we sure would like to hear about your discovery.
You got to have vision.
You can search, but we are confident that you won't find more shows covering more topics, hosted by a more diverse and inclusive lineup of talkers than the squad we have assembled here at KBLA Talk 1580.
This is the time, brothers. This is the time.
We've got something for everybody.
That's right.
Health and healing, history and humor, issues and events, empowerment and entertainment, all in one station.
What's really going on?
Free enterprise, you dig?
KBLA Talk 1580.
Yes.
Oh yeah. We got a lot to talk about.
King Kong ain't got on me.
If you're not listening to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. Everybody wants to talk to Tavis.
That's one reason, by the way, why I'm so thrilled to have this conversation with you today. The three people I always most hoped would interview me were Phil Donahue, Studs Terkel, and Tavis Smiley. Donahue's retired, Terkel's deceased, so this is a real thrill for me. And the reason why I have such respect for what you do is you have a historically informed conversation of depth and detail.
Be sure to tune in to Tavis Smiley weekday mornings, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on your unapologetically progressive radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is the pen mightier than the sword?
They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
Tell me I'm the
than black. At KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader. Follow 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 the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest spot. Shot with a rest spot. Shot with a rest spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
The bounce is back.
Good stuff, the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head.
This is a rather bold pronouncement, but we think.
All right, we are back, and joining me in this hour is Dr. Karlos Hill, author and professor at the University of Oklahoma, and Dr. Niambi Carter, author and professor at the University of Maryland. Talking about Senate Judiciary that sent a letter, Dr. Hill, to Harlan Crow, wanting to know every gift that he had given to Clarence Thomas and any other justice that was worth more than $415. He wants to know, the Judiciary Committee wants to know also gifts that were given to any justice's family member, as well as a full list of lodging, transportation, real estate transactions, and admission to any private clubs. Now, Dr. Carter seems to think the bigger issue for her is what are they going to do? But I think it's important that they subpoena Harlan Crow because the public, I think, needs to know the full extent of the gifts that have been given. And yes, the media has been doing a great job, the investigative journalists, but there's some role here for Congress to play in terms of oversight. What are you feeling about the subpoena potential in this case?
I think the subpoena potential is strong and it should happen. I think, as you say, it should be transparent. The American people should know the extent of the gifting and the extent of the corruption, let's just call it corruption, that Clarence Thomas has been engaged in for decades, while we thought he was engaged in sort of neutral, sort of, rooted in the best interest of the court. We see that there's much more going on, right? But I think we have to go back to the question of why does this matter? Because ultimately we've seen our country recently try to hold an investigation of something that was cataclysmic, and nothing really happened as a result. Because we have wavered on what we should actually do once we found out what actually transpired. And so I think there's a deep sense of reticence about engaging in an investigation that probably people really, at the end of the day, even when we know what happened and it's made clear, the question is, once we make these findings transparent, will people care? And there's really no guarantee whether Congress will care, the American public will care about this. I think, though, you're right, it should be transparent. We should know.
You and Dr. Carter are very cynical. Y'all think that nobody care about nothing.
Well, I mean, the January 6th hearings, I mean, the Ukraine hearings, I mean, we've had hearing after hearing after hearing.
But guys, okay, well, wait. January 6th, do you know they just indicted and got guilty verdicts in the Proud Boy cases? They got them in the Oath Keepers. All of that, I think, was as a result of the great work done by that January 6th committee. You all know that change in this country is incremental. It's slow.
Absolutely.
It's not quick. It's not fast. And it's never enough. But I want to just celebrate some of these wins.
Well, I think those wins are important, right? Like, there are over, I think, 400 or some odd people who've been in some varying relationship to the U.S. justice system as a result of January 6th. But what I wanted to hear was, what about these people that are currently serving in our government that were potentially helping to service these efforts and had no consequences as a result of that behavior? And that's what I'm talking about. So yes, I do think wins are important. I don't want to sound like all doom and gloom all the time, but I do think that sometimes, I mean, it's sort of like, okay, so now we know this. What's going to happen next? So I do agree that this is corruption. I do agree that this is important. We should also be concerned about Justice Roberts saying to that same Senate Judiciary Committee that I'm not talking to you all either, because we can police ourselves, which is crazy, because this is why we have oversight in the first place, right? So that we actually do have multiple hands on all these different branches of government. But the Supreme Court has been allowed to be rogue for a very long time under some notion about their judicial independence. And I still think that's important. But we do have to say the Supreme Court is not above the law. And we currently, right now, don't really have any ethics standard for them in the way that we do for other members of the federal judiciary. That's also a problem. So I guess what I'm saying is, we can know the problem and we can lay it out, but we also have to come up with some loose solutions. And I think those solutions have to be, we have to have better reporting standards for our Supreme Court. We also have to be willing to enforce our impeachment standards for that same Supreme Court, because these jobs are dependent on good behavior. I don't know that Clarence Thomas was demonstrating good behavior, even if it is a custom to do this stuff routinely. It's not good behavior. It's not what most people, I think, expect of Supreme Court justices.
See, and here's why, let me just say this. Here's why I think it's so important that Richard Dick Durbin from Democrat from Illinois, who's the Judiciary Committee chair. I'm so happy they're going down this road. Clearly not fast enough, clearly not, to my standards, aggressive enough, but they had a problem. Dianne Feinstein wasn't at work, so they didn't have the votes. She's going back to work. But here's what I think is happening. I think we continue, both the journalists as well as the Senate Judiciary Committee, to lay bare to the American people the corruption, as you call it, in the Supreme Court. And that starts to lay the groundwork and the foundation for what I think we really need is a complete overhaul of the Supreme Court. And we got to expand it, or we got to fix it with term limits or something. And we know Biden has been pretty, particularly opposed to any kind of overhaul of the court. But the more and more we beat this drum and people start to see the issues, I think we start to soften the hearts and minds of people and start getting people to think, well, maybe we do need to fix this imbalance. Because if they're not going to police themselves, if they're not going to be held accountable to the Senate, the other branch of government, you know what? Maybe we'll just expand this court and put some more Dems on there and, change the balance of power. So I think there's a longer play here. There's a long strategy here. It's a long game strategy that's being played out by folks like Dick Durbin and others who know it takes time to change institutions in this country, particularly one as previously revered as our U.S. Supreme Court. So that's where I think we're going, because I want to see complete reform of our Supreme Court. Go ahead, Dr. Hill, you want to jump in?
And let me just say, my dear sister, I love your energy today.
I'm just all fired up about that $5 million. I know it ain't nothing to a rich person, but that's a lot of money to an average Joe person.
I love it. I love it. This represents the best of our people. This is the spirit of Ida B. Wells. We're going to change, we're going to transform. But right now in this moment, I think what I'm saying, and I hear my colleagues saying, is that I think what those in Congress care about is what you just mentioned, maintaining that balance of power in favor of. And these conversations about holding Clarence Thomas accountable when the Republicans have had their way and been able to smash through policy after policy that are unfavorable to everyone who, that's just not going, and you have Mitch McConnell who's overseeing that and is not going to co-sign anything that disrupts that flow of power. That's where I feel this ends. This is not an issue because it will disrupt the flow of power and the ways in which they've been able to rearrange America in their image since Donald Trump was president. And so this is why, for me, ultimately, this is important. Maybe the long game will play out in favor of, but right now, I don't see that. In this season, I don't see that.
Gotta have vision, my brother. You gotta have vision.
Yes, that's why we are people. We need many voices.
Yes. So when we come forward, we'll talk about Liz Cheney. Boy, she's been very busy, even though she's out of Congress. And George Santos, he may be out of Congress pretty soon once we find out what those federal charges are that have been filed against him. When we come forward, more in KBLA Talk 1580.
Sword. They say the pen is mightier than the sword. At KBLA Talk 1580, we not only have a lot to talk about, we have a lot to write about. Politics, relationships, business, empowerment, and culture. The all-star roster at KBLA Talk 1580 has you covered.
That's what it's all about.
Be sure to follow us on all our socials for our latest book releases, op-eds, essays, and commentaries from our hosts. And, of course, download the KBLA 1580 app as we strive to remain your most trusted, credible, and reliable source for the issues you care about. This is unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
What up, baby?
I'm young, gifted, and black.
KBLA Talk 1580, we do more than just talk.
Hey there, I'm Jared Hill, president of the National Association of Black Journalists of Los Angeles, and I just want to say thank you for the benevolent $10,000 donation and scholarships for the next generation of black journalists.
And I'm Haywood Galbraith, photojournalist and founder of the Minority Photojournalism Institute. Thanks, KBLA, for your generous $10,000 scholarship gift to help us train the next generation of black photojournalists.
Congratulations to all the students who will benefit from the scholarship dollars raised at our Black History Month luncheon, honoring black legends in LA media. When we come forward at KBLA Talk 1580, we're bringing everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us. Everybody with us.
Connection established. Access granted.
In In a survey conducted by the public opinion research firm Eviderus, KBLA Talk 1580 consistently emerged as the station of choice for black audiences in the Los Angeles media market and beyond. The survey also revealed that the vast majority of black audiences are concerned about the lack of black-owned media and are more likely to listen to talk radio that focuses on issues that impact the black community. For some reason, the other talk stations haven't quite figured that out.
If you think about KFI, well, KFI only has like a 3% black listenership. 3%. So there's a good 97% out there to support a station like KBLA.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Your black. Your black.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at KBLA 1580.
Follow the leader.
Are you ready?
The station leading the way with exclusive interviews,
Follow the leader.
stimulating conversation, and intellectual discourse that empowers, enlightens, and informs.
Follow the leader.
Follow the leader at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Keep following the leader.
Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar, shot with a rest bar.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
Bounce is back.
Here comes the brand new flavor in your head.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA.
All right, Dr. Carter, Liz Cheney vowed to do everything she can to keep Donald Trump from returning to the White House. And she is putting her money where her mouth is. She's launched these TV ads and she's running them on CNN leading up to this town hall meeting that he's having on Wednesday. He's going to be taking questions from voters in New Hampshire. What do you make of these ads and her I'll call it her journey to make sure Donald Trump is not our next president?
Well, look, Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump most of the time, but was not quiet about her contempt for the man himself. So I'm sure she still likes the terrible policies that he enacted. She just does not think that Donald Trump has the ability, the character, the integrity to be a leader. So it's sort of like, I don't want to go off the deep end, to pat her on the back. But I will say she was on the January 6th committee when many of her colleagues refused. She did hear the evidence. She was very clear. And look, I think it's personal between the two of them. Liz Cheney has been in these circles for a really long time, and to sort of meet your end, I'm sure it's not the end of her politically, but from this particular part of her career, because of a man like Donald Trump, this is personal. So look, she still has, I'm still not a Liz Cheney fan politically, but this is the kind of thing I think we're going to continue to see as these Republicans are wrestling with whether they're going to be a political party or they're going to be a shill for, white extremist terrorists. Quite frankly, I mean, this has not functioned as a party. They function like a gang. And Donald Trump has been their chosen leader. And with Liz Cheney, they hung her out to dry. But she was a good soldier for Republicans for a really long time. So I think this is personal.
Mm. Yeah, you and I got, I knew if I worked hard enough, we were going to find some agreement today, sister. And so we are in complete agreement. What I love about Liz Cheney, I'm with you. Politics aside, her politics are trash, just like most of the folks that she served with. But I love that you have a woman who is standing up to Donald Trump. Obviously, she lost her seat because she took a position against Donald Trump. They primaried her with someone that was a Trump supporter. That person won in her former district, so she's no longer in Congress. She's doing what a lot of these men, Dr. Karlos Hill, who I know have personal animosity, because we know it, Tucker Carlson showed us. They hate Donald Trump privately, but so many of them are not even willing to stand up, even when he insults their wives and their families. And this woman has taken the gloves off and she is taking it to Donald Trump. I was watching DeSantis. I wasn't watching DeSantis. Donald Trump is running ads against Ron DeSantis, even though he hasn't gotten in the presidential race officially. He's running ads saying DeSantis wants to cut your Social Security. And we know Donald Trump was on that same train to cut your Social Security. And we haven't heard a peep. Not a word, not even a response from DeSantis. We haven't seen, as Dr. Carter says, only 2 Republicans have come out since this verdict determining that Donald Trump is a sexual assaulter. We don't see Republicans even coming out now. What do you make of these, call them straight up wimpy dudes that won't stand up to Donald Trump? That's what they are. They just wimpy dudes. They fight everybody. They fight the LGBT community. They fight the trans community. They fight drag queens, but they won't stand up to him.
I mean, I think it's just, and it's just that the power in the party, as much as they will, even on news telecasts, take shots, even small shots, he still is their voice. He's still, in many ways, is the heartbeat, is the passion, where the passion is in the party. And the Republicans, much like Mitch McConnell, really want to maintain power. And I think they see that through him. DeSantis is someone who is a challenger, but I don't, his politics in Florida, I think he's not Donald Trump. That's his problem. Like, he wants to be, but he's not. He's not going to be able to be with Donald Trump in the race. And so this is his fundamental problem with Donald Trump creating this new wave of politics. Really, and I'm glad we're talking about Cheney, really dethroning the Bush-Cheney kind of politic, right? Internationalism and wars. Like, this is sort of, in so many ways, a change that Trump's change allowed for the individuals such as the Marjorie Taylor Greenes to emerge, and all the ones like her. We're seeing this, and so I just, for me, I'm sorry to be so cynical, but I just see that this is really only about power and the maintenance of power, and nothing's going to be done that really disrupts that. No matter, and we saw that with the election. No matter what Donald Trump did, no matter what he said, it didn't matter, because what was most important was rebuking everything that occurred under the Obama administration. Right. That was the most important thing, not what Donald Trump did or didn't do or how he violated every rule. It was maintenance of power and restoring what was thought to have been lost. That was what was most important, and still, I think.
See, now you and I've talked long enough where I now am agreeing with you too. Yes, that's what the whole Trump era was. See, we just have all come full circle from my rant to just total agreement, which is what I love about my brilliant contributors. You are right. It's all about, restoring what they believe was lost when a Black man deigned to run for president and had the audacity to win, not once, but twice. So we know that so much of what's been happening in this country is all about the payback, the backlash for the progress that African Americans and other people of color have made in this country. And, we can't minimize that. We can't gloss over that, look over that. But I still think that we have to acknowledge Liz Cheney, for her personal reasons, is fighting back against Donald Trump. And I think that there is a cumulative thing that's happening with Donald Trump. The diehards are going to be the diehards, but I don't see big donors and a lot of folks who are, maybe on the fence continuing to support him. And I say, bring it on. I take it from Liz Cheney, Hutchison, Mo Brooks, whomever. The more attacks we can get on Donald Trump, I think the more we chip away at his power. And it's going to make it, I think we make it as hard as possible for anyone to stand with him, to stand in solidarity. And every time someone mentions his name, they need to be talking about this jury verdict and the fact that this jury pool, this jury sitting in Manhattan, this is Donald Trump's town, Manhattan, determined that he was liable for sexually assaulting a woman and that he acted intentionally, because that's what punitive damages are all about, intentional, malicious conduct. So we need to say that every chance we get, and say that as we talk about these other indictments, potential indictments, other investigations, because I know he is somewhere, despite acting all proud and, unfazed by what happened, he is very nervous, because he knows if that jury sitting in Manhattan can determine that he's liable and award $5 million to this woman, that means a similar jury in Manhattan in that case brought by Alvin Bragg can determine that he is guilty. And with that kind of verdict comes some punishment, the likes of which he could not have ever imagined, because he has gotten away with everything that white men who are privileged like him in this country get away with. I'm out of time. Thank you so much, Professor Karlos Hill, Arthur Professor, University of Oklahoma. Thank you so much, Dr. Niambi Carter, Arthur and Professor at the University of Maryland. Always great to see both of you on this busy day. Thanks for helping us break down all of this really important news. When we come forward, we'll be talking about the Sudan civil war that's happening in Sudan. Why is it happening? And what is America doing to help stabilize this region? We're also going to talk about the role that Joe Biden, George Bush, Barack Obama, and other U.S. presidents have played when it comes to Sudan and other countries around the globe. Super excited to have Meredith Bill and Dr. Gerald Horn joining us in hour two. After some news and sports, we will be back with the second hour of Areva Martin in Real Time. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're not listening to Tavis